What's up, YouTube? This is my first video, and I'm a little excited that I'm just getting my YouTube channel started. I just wanted to go over something straight to the point about something that some of y'all may not know much about, but may want to know more about, and that is what to eat before workout. There's a lot of, oh, do this and that, it's better, blah, blah, blah. It's mainly all just preference. There are plenty of myths out there that y'all probably realize that there are plenty of myths out there. But specifically before I work out, maybe 30-60 minutes before I work out. And keep in mind, guys, I'm talking about resistance training, not endurance training. That's completely different. Endurance is more heavily based on eating a lot more carbs than protein. For resistance training, just keep in mind, do eat about 1 to 1.1 grams per pound of body weight, or 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. The reason being, people tend to overdo the whole protein intake. I mean, yeah, protein is very important for resistance training, but during a workout, you're only using maybe 5 to 8 to maybe 10% total energy expenditure from protein. So what that means is your carbs are going to be way more important than protein for a workout as far as performance. You're going to use a lot more carbs, trust me. You're going to use maybe up to 70% of your total carbs for energy expenditure. So a lot of people, they take a lot of protein before a workout. You're really not doing much. They say, oh, you can only absorb so much protein at a time. Yeah, it's true for the most part. But you kind of get an idea after a while what your body is capable of absorbing and using and utilizing for energy. For me specifically, I use maybe 30 grams protein per meal every 2 to 3 hours. And I don't go off eat every 2 hours to keep your metabolism high. That's another myth. I just eat when I'm hungry, but I try to make sure I get a pretty equal amount of protein throughout the day, just to keep the protein synthesis pretty high. Because after a while, if you don't eat protein, your protein synthesis is going to go down very gradually. But before a workout, 30 minutes, I usually take in about 70 grams. The reason being 70, because that's what my body is pretty used to having. Some people might have to go a little lower because they're not as big or at my level yet. But if you go over the amount, I mean, you're going to store some of this fat, or it's going to be a little slow. You're going to be a little, I mean, if you work out eating a lot before, you might have GI issues, or your stomach might kind of cramp or something. So I usually take about 70 because I found out that works best for me. I'm kind of picky. Some of y'all may not care as much, but for me, I like to do about a 2 to 1 glucose-fructose ratio. Reason being is by having that ratio, you're actually increasing the oxidation rate a little bit, and by having a lot more carbs than just maybe like a banana before workout, I try to have a whole bowl of oatmeal, maybe about 1.5 cups or so, and some fruit. This will actually increase insulin response, which is responsible for the carbohydrate uptake and storage. During resistance training, you are going to be using mainly your glycogen stores in the muscle more than just your glucose. Your fructose is going to be stored too. But the reason the 2 to 1 ratio works very well is you have this the quick digesting glucose, and you're using glucose pretty quickly for energy, while at the same time you're gradually converting the fructose into glucose for energy in your liver during the workout, so you're having a steady flow of energy during the workout. And I can't stress enough about people worrying about depleting your carbs during resistance training. It's really hard. If you have enough carbohydrates before a workout, it's really hard to actually deplete your glycogen stores or your glucose or any, like, your carbohydrates in general during actual resistance training. That comes down later for like competitions when you're doing carbohydrate depleting exercises, such as a ton of reps, very lightweight, trying to exhaust the muscles of your glycogen stores, etc. But as far as just regular training, I mean, don't worry about depleting your carbs. Just make sure you have a decent amount of carbs to help you with your performance, since carbohydrates are going to be your main source of energy. Now, another thing about people may want to know about fat, like lipolysis, the actual use of fat for energy. Sure, I try to keep around 30% of my total intake from fat. I mean, it's just necessary. I'm not going to get into scientific details about it, but a lot of people say, oh, keep under 65% of your VO2 max, your heart rate or whatever, so you can use fat for your energy as your main source. Yeah, that's kind of true. Um, that's why you see people on the treadmill doing a very low, intense, steady paced jog or something, because they're trying to use fat for their energy source. Um, for me, I personally think HIIT cardio combined with resistance training long term, with the muscle being built, will indirectly burn the fat faster than any cardio by itself. But with HIIT cardio, you burn less calories initially compared to like a 45-minute jog or something. Sure, you're burning less with HIIT cardio, but you're actually burning more throughout the day due to the afterburn effect, which many of y'all probably already know about. So with HIIT cardio, you're actually going in anaerobic state, and I don't know why this is a little laggy right now, but so what that means is during the glycogenolysis cycle, you're actually only producing maybe 3 ATP per cycle, and the substrate pyruvate is going to be converted into 2-lactate, which is going to be reused in the glycogenolysis cycle to produce more ATP, and it keeps going, but it's at a slower rate compared if you're just slowly jogging, which you'll keep producing a lot more ATP. You'll be using glucose for energy more than glycogen, and actually you'll be using more fat storages too, but it's at a very, very slow rate. And keep in mind, when you digest fat, it takes maybe 1 to 2 hours to actually be able to oxidize that fat to where you can actually use it for energy, because when you eat it, it takes very slow amount of time to, or very slow time to actually digest it and absorb it. So that's why HIIT cardio is so important, because you're using so much energy so quickly and you're pushing your limits. Like you're trying to go 100% effort during sprinting intervals, for example, and you're going to be using a lot of your carbohydrates for energy. And so you're burning calories pretty fast, but it's only for a short duration because you don't want to kill yourself, obviously. But throughout the day, you have this afterburn effect. I'm not going to go into it, but just keep in mind, you burn calories at a faster rate. And since you're at a resting rate where you're burning calories faster, you're actually digging into your fat storages for energy afterwards throughout the day. So that's where the HIIT cardio, whole aspect of HIIT cardio being a lot better than jogging at a steady pace comes in. Because I mean, HIIT cardio overall, there's so many studies that prove that it's better than just jogging. And combined with resistance training, more importantly, high intensity resistance training, you'll be burning fat at a lot faster rate than if you're just doing, a 30-minute jog and just kind of lifting, half-assing it, and taking really long breaks in between each exercise. No, I'm only in the gym for 45 minutes. I do very high intensity, maybe 20-second, 30-second breaks in between each exercise. For example, I'll do a lateral raise exercise, 20 seconds, then I'll go into anterior delt exercise, 20 seconds, posterior, 20 seconds, biceps, so on and so forth. What I'm doing is I'm actually decreasing the weight just a hair, and I don't really do till failure, but I do until it's just so hard to get that last rep in. I push myself, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to activate every muscle fiber that I can, tear as many muscle fibers that I can, and which will thus do create optimal muscle gain. And that during rest, that's where your muscles repair. And since you've torn so many muscle fibers in a short amount of time, it'll allow more rest time. You just keep doing that. I'm only in the gym for 45 minutes a day, and I mean, I look like how I do. You don't have to be in the gym for an hour and 30 minutes or more. I mean, people are in there. I mean, if you want to, you can. I just don't like being in the gym that long. That's just me. Like I said, it's all preference. You can be in the gym that long if you want. If you feel like you get more of a workout in that way, that's fine. For me, I prefer HIIT or high intensity resistance training. But anyway, back to the use of carbs and fats for energy. I can't stress enough that carbs are going to be your most important source of fuel. So yeah, sure, taking in fat. I would usually take in about 20-25 grams of fat first thing in the morning, along with my fast digesting carbs. That way I'll give the time for the fat to be utilized for energy, because it takes up to a couple hours for the fat to actually be absorbed and everything. And what that will allow is when I actually work out and throughout the day, I'll be using this fat storages at a very gradual pace, and it'll minimize fat gain pretty much. Instead of, you don't want to eat fat right before or after a workout, because that will affect your whole insulin response and taking the carbs, everything, etc. Just worry about eating mainly carbs before workout and after workout. And even if you want to, you can actually take in maybe about 200 milligrams or more. I mean, there's tests that show that caffeine will actually help speed up the oxidation rate if you take in carbs right after a workout and even before a workout if you take caffeine along with carbs. And I usually take 150, 200 milligrams of caffeine right after workout along with my carbs so I can help speed up the oxidation rate and have the carbs being stored at a faster rate. And you always want a decent amount of carbs. I already talked about it, I think. When you have a decent amount of carbs, like for me, 70 grams of carbs right before workout, having that higher amount of carbs will increase the insulin response, thus helping the oxidation process and helping storing carbs at a faster rate. And now with caffeine, make sure not to take it with creatine. There have been studies that caffeine can actually counter the effect of creatine. So if you're taking creatine and caffeine regularly, most pre-workouts, actually, funny enough, they have caffeine and creatine, monohydrate or micronized or something together. So when you're taking that, the caffeine is actually sort of hindering the creatine's effect. That's why, creatine, when you take it, you're going to store the creatine. there's going to be enough creatine in your system throughout the day, no matter when you really take it. So when you take it, it doesn't really matter. The instructions say immediately before and after a workout or 30 minutes before and after a workout. That's just a preference. Your body is pretty good at storing these things. I usually just take creatine first thing in the morning. Right before a workout, I might have caffeine with carbs. And after a workout, I'll have caffeine with carbs, and I'll have creatine later on in the day. It doesn't matter when you take creatine. As long as you've done the loading phase, you can take creatine twice, whatever you want. I just try not to do it with caffeine, maybe about 2 hours within each other, because there have been studies that caffeine can hinder creatine's effect. Some of you all may have not known about that. As far as pre-workouts in general, I don't take any. Most of the pre-workouts ingredients are kind of, you really don't need them. Like, most of your energy from those pre-workouts are coming from, the creatine, caffeine, and I just don't need it unless you become really dependent on caffeine, or you feel like you get an extra pump. Has that sort of placebo effect, but a lot of pre-workouts actually don't have placebo effects. They actually do have ingredients that help you increase your energy, but I feel like I don't need them. I think the best pre-workout is mental preparation. So I just kind of get my head in the game and then I go for it. So I've never really taken pre-workouts. I used to, but it doesn't do much for me anymore. As far as what to eat after a workout, if you're a resistance trainer, yes, protein is important. Try to get around 25 to 30 grams protein, and if you're about my size, more like 1.1 grams pound per body weight. Those people who take like 2 scoops, you're on the very high end. You're even probably a little overboard with it. You can only absorb, evolutionarily, yes, you can absorb more protein as you get bigger and you have more requirements and more muscle to actually, hey, I need more protein, and because I damaged a lot of muscles. But even then, that's too much protein, having like 60 grams of protein after workout, probably excreting a good amount of it. Unless you're taking anabolic steroids or something where your body requires that much, then yeah, by all means take that much. But for average people or like in shape people like me, you don't need that much. Your carbohydrates are actually going to protect your protein tissues more than anything. So I really have put more emphasis on the carbohydrates after workout. And I still keep with the 2-to-1 glucose-fructose ratio even after and before workout, because that'll help speed up the oxidation rate. Along with the caffeine, that'll speed up even a little bit more. So instead of eating just a bunch of glucose, you're having less than 1.5 grams per minute of uptake. Taking to the 2-to-1 ratio of glucose-fructose can actually increase it up to maybe 1.7 grams per minute, even in some cases up to 2. It's a lot faster. In the long run, it's a lot faster, and it just helps to do everything, like all these little details to keep in mind. They can help in the long run. Yeah, I will probably make another video soon. Write in the comments what you want me to do, or email me or something. If you follow me on Instagram, just hit me up. Like, I'll make a video of whatever y'all want me to do. I'll go more in depth with it. So yeah, this is my first video, so I hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you all again. Again, subscribe.